The last message, she never replied. Inside Menglong's final love and the tearful goodbye, there are moments that live forever, even when the person is gone. For Menglong, the man whose smile once lit up millions of screens, his last moment was not on stage, not under the glare of fame, but inside a quiet room, staring at a message that would never be answered. The words were simple, almost fragile in tone, but they carried the weight of years. Are you still there? That message was the last he ever sent, and the silence that followed became the last thing he ever heard. The story of Menglong's death is not just a tragedy about a man who left too soon. It's a haunting melody about love, loss, and everything he never said out loud. To the world, he was a shining star, an actor, a singer, a soul that could transform sorrow into art. But to those closest to him, he was also a man who loved too deeply, gave too much, and carried a kind of loneliness that applause could never fill. In the days leading up to his death, those around him noticed the change. He had grown quieter. The laughter that once echoed through sets and dressing rooms had turned into long silences and soft sighs. His eyes, once bright with dreamlike light, now seemed far away, as if he was looking for something that wasn't there anymore. Friends said he spent hours scrolling through old messages, staring at one particular contact, her name, the woman he could never forget, the one who vanished when he needed her most. They had met years before fame had changed everything. Back then, they were just two dreamers trying to find a place in a world that often forgot gentle souls. She was his anchor, the one who understood his silences, who stayed up with him on nights when he doubted his worth. She saw the man behind the lights, behind the fame, behind the smile the world adored. But as time went on, their paths began to drift. Fame built walls between them. Distance turned love into longing. And one day, the messages stopped coming from her side. Still, he never stopped checking, never stopped hoping. Even when he told the world he was fine, he was waiting for one more word from her, a word that never came. On his final night, he sat by the window, rain tapping gently on the glass. The city outside shimmered like tears. He had been rehearsing lines earlier that day. Ironically, lines about love, loss, and forgiveness. But when the camera stopped, so did his strength. His assistant later shared that he had looked unusually fragile that evening, clutching his phone as though it were the last piece of something sacred. The last message he sent was short, almost hesitant. Are you still there? She never replied. What happened next remains a blur in the memories of those who loved him. Hours later, he was found alone, the phone still beside him, the message screen still open. The world that had adored him woke up to headlines filled with disbelief. Fans refused to accept it. How could someone so full of life, so talented, so gentle, suddenly be gone? But behind the flashing news alerts and tearful tributes lay a truth that only those who really knew him could understand. Menglong had been breaking long before his final goodbye. Fame can give, but it also takes. It gives love from millions, but takes away the one that truly matters. It gives applause, but steals silence. It gives success, but demands solitude. For Menglong, the price of being loved by everyone was that he was never truly seen by anyone. Not the way she saw him, the woman who now would carry the burden of silence forever. Those close to him remember how he once described love. It's not about how much time you have together, but how deeply you remember someone even when they're gone. He said it during an interview once, smiling faintly as though hiding something. The interviewer thought it was just poetic charm, but now looking back, it feels like a quiet farewell that no one recognized at the time. After his death, the message thread went viral. Someone from his team had mentioned it, not out of gossip, but heartbreak. Fans began to imagine what that silence must have felt like, the weight of an unanswered text that carried the echo of goodbye. Memes turned into memorials. Hashtags turned into prayers. Everywhere online, people wrote messages they wished they could send to their own lost loves. It was as if his story unlocked the pain of millions who had also sent words into silence. One of his friends revealed that Menglong had been working on a new song before he died, a song about missing someone who no longer replies. The lyrics were unfinished, just fragments scribbled in his notebook. If I write your name in the stars, will you finally look back? If I whisper your name in the rain, will it sound like goodbye? That notebook now lies sealed in a box, kept by his manager who said he couldn't bear to finish the song. It feels sacred, a final conversation between a man and the silence that broke him. What makes Menglong's story so haunting isn't just his death. It's the tenderness of his goodbye. He didn't rage. He didn't blame. He simply reached out one last time. Softly, hopefully, like someone still believing in love even when it's gone. The simplicity of that last message has made millions cry, because it speaks to a universal truth. We all have someone we once waited for, someone whose silence hurt more than any goodbye. In the days after his passing, candlelight vigils appeared in cities across Asia. Fans brought flowers, letters, and their phones, each with an open message screen showing, "Are you still there?" They wanted to answer him, to tell him yes, they were still here, still listening, still loving him. But perhaps the saddest part of all was that the only person he truly wanted that answer from could never send it. The woman, whose identity has been kept private, reportedly broke down when she learned of his death. Friends said she was inconsolable, replaying old voice notes of him, crying over what-ifs. She admitted to one close confidant that she saw his message that night but didn't reply because she didn't know what to say. She thought she'd respond in the morning. She never got the chance. That single moment, that small decision, became a wound she would carry forever. Because sometimes the difference between life and death is a single message, a single reply, a single heartbeat that could have changed everything. As time passes, the world will remember Menglong for his roles, his music, his art. But those who loved him, and those who loved through him, will remember something else. The quiet tragedy of a man who kept loving even when love no longer spoke back. His death has become more than a loss. It's a mirror reflecting our own silences, our own unread messages, our own regrets. In a way, that last message has become his legacy. It's no longer just his question, it's ours. Are we still there? Are we still present in the lives of those who need us? Are we still answering the people who reach out to us in their quiet moments of pain? The irony is that Menglong always believed in connection. He once said in an interview, "Even if I disappear, I hope my heart stays somewhere, in a song, a line, or someone's memory." And it did. His heart now lives in the millions who mourn him, in the fans who light candles, in the lovers who finally reply to old messages, realizing the power of a simple word. The rain hadn't stopped that night. It whispered against the glass like the world itself was mourning. Inside that small apartment, Menglong sat motionless, staring at the dim light of his phone screen. The glow painted his face in pale blue, outlining the exhaustion beneath his eyes, the kind that doesn't come from sleepless nights, but from silent heartbreak. He had typed the words a dozen times before sending them. "Are you still there?" And then he waited. Every second that passed felt like an hour. The screen stayed still, the message marked as delivered but not read. The clock ticked. Outside, thunder grumbled in the distance. It wasn't just the storm that was heavy. It was everything he'd been holding inside. To the world, Menglong was a man who seemed to have everything: the fame, the charm, the talent. But what people didn't see was how fragile he had become under the weight of loneliness. Behind every performance, there was a quiet desperation, an ache that even his most loyal fans couldn't hear. That night, he played one of his old songs, the one he wrote years ago before fame found him. It was about a boy waiting for someone who promised to come back. The melody filled the room, soft and haunting, wrapping around him like a memory. He closed his eyes and smiled weakly, whispering, "I guess I'm still that boy." The woman he messaged had once been his everything. She was the one who saw him before the world did, when he was just you, not Menglong. She was the first to hear his songs, the one who stayed up through the night helping him memorize lines, the one who believed when he didn't. But life had its own script. As his name rose higher, hers faded into the background. Their love, once pure and steady, began to drown under distance, rumors, and the noise of celebrity life. And yet, he never stopped waiting for her. He still looked for her face in the crowd, still searched for her voice in echoes of laughter. He once told a friend, "It's strange how love never really ends. It just turns into silence." That silence was what filled his final hours. At 11:23 p.m., the last text remained unopened. He stared at it for a long time, tracing the outline of her name on the screen like it could bring her closer. The world outside blurred into raindrops, the city lights smudging into watercolor sadness. He picked up his guitar, the one she bought him when they first fell in love, and began strumming the same melody he'd written for her years ago. Those who lived nearby later said they could hear faint music through the walls. A slow, mournful tune. It was the sound of a man playing his last song for the love he could never let go of. He had no grand farewell, no note left behind. Just that one message, still waiting in the blue glow of his phone. By morning, when the world found out it was too late, the message was still there, unread, unanswered, untouched. It became the symbol of his last breath, the fragile thread between life and heartbreak. The news spread like wildfire. Fans wept openly. Streets filled with flowers, candles, and handwritten letters. On social media, millions reposted screenshots of messages they never sent. Apologies, confessions, unanswered texts, all inspired by his story. If only she had replied. One fan wrote, maybe he'd still be here. But it wasn't just about the reply. It was about everything he had carried alone. The expectations, the exhaustion, the emotional silence that fame demands. For years, he had learned to smile even when his heart was shattering. He had learned to act okay because the world only clapped when he was perfect. A crew member from his last drama shared that, days before his death, he seemed distracted. During a romantic scene, he paused midline and stared into the distance for several seconds, tears gathering in his eyes. When they cut the scene, he laughed it off and said, "Sorry, I thought I saw someone I used to love." No one understood what he meant, not until later. The woman eventually spoke in a quiet statement. "I saw his message," she confessed through tears, "but I didn't know what to say. I thought we had time. I thought he was just reaching out like before." Her voice broke when she added, "Now I'll never forgive myself for the silence." Her grief became another heartbreak the world watched unfold. She visited his resting place days later, leaving a single white rose in his phone. Still locked, still holding the message she never replied to. She whispered something only the wind heard. Witnesses said she stood there for hours in the rain, whispering, "I'm still here." That scene, her trembling hands, the rain mixing with tears, became one of the most shared images online. Fans turned it into art, poetry, and songs. The last message she never replied became more than a story. It became a mirror reflecting the pain of unspoken love that lives inside so many hearts. And maybe that's why his death feels so personal to people who never even met him. Because we all know what it's like to wait for a message that never comes. We all know the ache of being left unread, not just in chats but in life. But Menglong'S story isn't just a tragedy. It's also a reminder that silence can be deadly, that kindness, even in small forms, a reply, a word, a call, can save someone from falling into the darkness. It's a call to love louder, to care sooner, to answer while we still can. In the weeks that followed, his last message became a symbol of empathy. Fans began lighting candles under the phrase, "Are you still there?" Artists painted murals of his face, surrounded by stars and falling text bubbles. His final song, the one he never finished, was completed by his producer, using fragments of his voice recordings. The title? Still Here. When it was released posthumously, The lyrics echoed everything he never got to say. You didn't answer, but I still wait. In every heartbeat, in every rain. If love had words, they'd sound like your name. Even in silence, I love you the same. The song broke records. But more than that, it broke hearts in the most beautiful way. Today, years later, people still send messages to his fan page. Still write, I'm still here under his photos. The pain has become poetry, and his goodbye has turned into a lesson in love and presence. Maybe the woman never replied, but the world did. Millions of hearts answered the question he once asked, echoing through time and screens. Yes, we're still here. Because even though Menglong is gone, his voice, soft, aching, unforgettable, still lingers. And somewhere in that endless silence, maybe he finally found the peace he was waiting for. And if love truly never dies, then perhaps, just perhaps, she finally whispered it back. I'm still here.